Peppa lay on the top bunk of her bunk bed, listening to George tossing and turning below. His breathing was erratic, unusually heavy for a sleeping child. She tried to sleep, but the unease grew with every strange rustle from beneath her. Morning brought only more questions. At breakfast, George sat staring at his bowl of porridge, his gaze empty and detached. Mummy Pig and Daddy Pig exchanged glances, their smiles gone, replaced by a slight anxiety. Peppa tried to talk to George, but he didn't answer, only shaking his head slightly. At the playground, George sat in the sandbox, his small hands mechanically sifting sand, but his eyes remained lifeless. He didn't respond to Peppa's calls, to her attempts to engage him in play. In the evening, as her parents discussed his strange behavior, George sat in the corner of the room, engrossed in drawing. Peppa came closer and saw that he was sketching strange, repetitive symbols on paper. Circles, triangles, squares. They were perfectly even, almost mechanical. Peppa's anxiety intensified. She tried to show the drawings to her parents, but they were too busy with their own affairs, dismissing her. The next day, Susie Sheep came to play. George sat next to her, but his eyes were empty, and he didn't participate in their games. Susie looked confused and a little scared. Peppa looked at George, and it seemed to her that he was looking directly at her, but without any expression, as if through her. Later, when Peppa tried to talk to Susie about George, she also seemed detached, her gaze as empty as George's. Peppa felt the world around her begin to change. At the playground, she saw that other children, Pedro Pony, Rebecca Rabbit, were also sitting with the same empty, detached stares. It was like a silent epidemic. Peppa walked home, feeling completely alone and frightened. The sky was overcast with grey clouds, and the house seemed alien. Entering the living room, she saw Mummy and Daddy sitting on the couch. They were watching television, but their eyes were as empty as George's and the other children's. Peppa tried to reach out to them, but they didn't respond. Their faces were lifeless masks. Peppa ran to her room. She sat on the floor, surrounded by George's drawings, which now seemed like ominous omens. The room plunged into darkness, and Peppa felt despair engulf her. She fell asleep, but sleep brought no relief. She dreamed of shadows in red suits. Lost episode of Peppa Pig that never aired. A sunny day illuminated Peppa Pig's house, filling it with familiar laughter. Peppa and George played in their room, where a bunk bed stood against the wall, George on the bottom, Peppa on top. Mummy Pig cooked in the kitchen, and Daddy Pig read the newspaper in the living room. Everything was as usual, but a slight, almost imperceptible tension hung in the air. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Susie Sheep stood on the threshold, but her gaze was unusually blank and her movements stiff. She didn't smile as always, and didn't jump with joy. Suddenly, Spider-Man appeared on the roof of the house, his suit torn and dirty. He looked very tired and scared. Spider-Man slowly descended the wall, his movements uncertain. He peered into the window, his eyes full of anxiety. The pig family froze, watching him. No one understood what was happening. An ominous silence hung in the air. In the shadow of the trees behind the house, a dark, shapeless shadow flickered. It moved quickly and silently, approaching the house. The shadow was huge and menacing, its outlines resembling something terrible. It glided to the back door like a ghost. The pig family felt a chill down their spines. This was something very frightening. Daddy Pig, trying to be brave, slowly approached the door. His heart pounded in his chest. He carefully opened the door, peering outside. There was no one behind the door, only silence. Daddy Pig felt relief, but it was short-lived. Something was wrong. Suddenly, Venom burst from around the corner of the house, his black mass swaying. He was huge and terrifying, his eyes burning with an ominous fire. Venom let out a terrifying roar that made the windows rattle. He moved with incredible speed, heading towards the house. The pig family was terrified. Spider-Man, seeing Venom, tried to warn the pigs. He shouted, but his voice was weak and hoarse. He tried to break through to them, but his strength was failing. Venom was too fast. The pig family watched in horror. They were trapped. Venom burst into the house, his tentacles smashing furniture. He was unstoppable, his fury boundless. The pig family scattered in different directions, trying to hide. Venom pursued them, his roar filling the house. It was a true nightmare. Mummy Pig, trying to protect the children, grabbed a frying pan. She was full of determination, her eyes burning. She swung the frying pan, preparing for battle. Venom approached, his shadow looming over her. Mummy Pig was ready to fight. Suddenly, a chef emerged from the kitchen, his white hat askew. He was tall and thin, his eyes insane. In his hands, he held a huge cleaver from which blood dripped. The chef let out a terrifying laugh, his voice piercing. He looked very sinister. The chef, ignoring Venom, lunged at Spider-Man. His cleaver flashed in the air. Spider-Man tried to dodge, but was too weak. The chef was possessed, his movements fast and precise. It was a terrible sight. Venom, seeing the chef, froze for a moment, his black mass still. He was surprised. His eyes widened. The chef was an unexpected turn. Venom slowly retreated, his roar quieter. He did not expect such a turn of events. A sunny day illuminated Pig's house, but something was wrong. Peppa and George were playing in their room when they heard a strange sound from the basement. Mummy Pig was making breakfast, unaware of the danger. Daddy Pig was reading his newspaper, but his hands trembled with worry. Strange sounds from the basement became louder and more frightening. Peppa goes down the stairs into the dark basement, where she discovers a secret laboratory. George follows his sister, his eyes wide open with fear. In the laboratory stand strange machines, and green liquids glow in flasks. Suddenly, a figure in a red and blue costume appears from the shadows. It's Spider-Man. He looks scared and points to a large black mass in the corner. Peppa and George hide behind a table, watching what's happening. The black mass begins to move and takes the shape of a terrifying creature. Venom slowly rises, his white eyes glowing in the darkness of the laboratory. Spider-Man tries to stop him, but Venom is too strong. Peppa screams in fear, drawing the monster's attention to herself. George hides behind his sister, trembling with horror. Venom approaches the children, his long tongue sticking out of his mouth. Spider-Man rushes to protect Peppa and George from danger. Mummy and Daddy Pig hear the screams and rush to the basement. They freeze in horror when they see what's happening in the laboratory. Spider-Man fights Venom, using his web and agility. The pig family hides behind laboratory equipment, watching the battle. Venom roars and tries to grab Spider-Man with his tentacles. The laboratory shakes from their fight. Flasks fall and break. Peppa finds a red button on the wall and presses it. A bright light turns on, which blinds and weakens Venom. Spider-Man uses this moment to wrap the monster in web. George helps by throwing his toy dinosaur at Venom. Venom begins to weaken under the influence of bright light and web. Spider-Man ties him tighter, not letting him break free. The pig family carefully comes out of hiding, still trembling. The laboratory gradually becomes quieter and safer. Spider-Man explains that Venom escaped from another laboratory. He thanks Peppa for helping with the light button. Daddy Pig calls a special service to take the monster away. Mummy Pig hugs the children, calming them after the scary adventure. Special agents arrive and take the tied-up Venom to a safe place. Spider-Man says goodbye to the family and flies away through the window. The laboratory is closed and sealed forever. The Pig family goes upstairs, leaving the nightmare behind. In the evening, the family sits in the living room, still shocked by the day's events. Peppa tells about her bravery in pressing the button. George is proud that he helped defeat the monster with his dinosaur. The parents promise never to keep secrets from the children again. Morning in Peppa Pig's house began with eerie silence. Sunlight streamed through the curtains, but no laughter or footsteps. Peppa woke up on her top bunk. George lay below, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. He didn't move. Panicked, Peppa ran to her parents' room. Mummy Pig and Daddy Pig lay still, eyes open and lifeless. She tried to wake them. No response. The house was deathly quiet, broken only by her own breathing. Outside, the world was frozen. Empty streets, no birds, no sounds. And then, a figure. Tall, thin, in a red jumpsuit, with a black mask marked by a circle. It slowly approached, stopping at the gate. Peppa fled back inside, hiding under the bunk bed beside George. She heard slow, echoing steps. The figure entered the house, closer, closer, then stopped. A mechanical voice whispered, "Game." Peppa opened her eyes. The figure stood above her, extending a hand. On its palm, a small wooden whistle. She took it. It was cold. The figure left. Alone, Peppa blew the whistle. A strange sound echoed through her. George blinked. So did Mummy and Daddy Pig. They moved, slowly, unnaturally. Their eyes remained blank. They didn't look at her, but through her. The whistle hadn't revived them. It had activated them. Now they were part of something, part of the game. So was she. The whistle was no longer a toy. It was a key to a world with alien rules and unimaginable stakes. The house filled with sound again. Not laughter, but the eerie rhythm of movement and soulless stares. The game had begun, and everyone was just a pawn.